Hello. Today we're going to talk to you about a country we created and the problem of plastic pollution. Globally, over 8 million tons of plastic is dumped into the ocean each year. To break that down for you, that's a rubbish truck full of plastic every minute. If we continue to drop plastic into the ocean at this rate, scientists predict that by 2050, there'll be more plastic in the ocean than fish. These two compelling facts were where our brief started. The Lad Bible and the Plastic Oceans Foundation wanted to raise awareness of this problem and its impact. But we'll give you a bit of context as to where we were when we were briefed and the campaign started. In early 2017, people weren't associating plastic with the environmental impact it was having. A study by Oxford Dictionaries found that people associated the word plastic with things like box, bottle, toy. So it was all to do with the material that plastic was being used for, nothing to do with its environmental impact. When it came to governments, there was little to no legislation in place to solve the issue. And because the issue is thousands of miles out at sea, not on their voters' doorstep or the press's radar, they could simply ignore it. The saying, out of sight, out of mind, could not be more applicable than with this issue. And when it came to the media, plastic wasn't even in the top 50 trending topics.
So our task was to make the invisible visible. And to do so, we needed to make the public aware of the scale of the problem, get the press talking about the issue, and get the United Nations to take notice of our campaign. So what's the idea? In the North Pacific Ocean, there is so much plastic an area is formed, not the size of Aveiro, but 7 times the size of Portugal. So we decided to turn this country-sized trash patch into an official country, the Trash Isles. On World Oceans Day, we submitted an application to the United Nations to recognize the Trash Isles as an official country. Because if it's recognized as an official country, other countries would be obliged to help clean it up under Article 7 of the Rio Declaration. So we'd sent this application to the United Nations, and we had no idea if we'd hear anything back. And then all of a sudden, this happened.
Declared the part of the ocean where all the trash is gathered, the plastic, the Trash Isles. Has the petition been received, and what's your take on it?
I think it's a very innovative and creative way to bring attention to a problem that is often not seen.
So we didn't create an ad, we created a country. And when you create a country, you stop thinking like marketeers, and you start thinking like the founding fathers of a newly formed nation. And we didn't look for inspiration in the usual places. We looked for it deep within UN legislation. And trust us, there's lots of it. For instance, the Montevideo Convention on Rights and Duties of States outlines the criteria you need to adhere to become an official country. You need to define borders. Well, we claimed all of the masses of floating plastic in the North Pacific Ocean as our country. You need to form a government. Ours is a monarchy, and you'll hear a little bit more about our queen in a bit. You need to set up communications. Well, that was done through a website, the Trash Isles website, and establish citizens, which Mike will talk you through in a little bit more detail now.
So we'd launched with a letter. Now came the platform for people to engage with it. We targeted Lad Bible's young, politically active audience and recruited them to become citizens. To do so, we created videos solely dedicated to educating them about the problem. Experts gave interviews and wrote articles on it. And the Plastic Oceans Foundation did live Q&As on social media. All of this led to us being one of Change.org's fastest ever growing petitions. We soon had over 250,000 citizens, and in just a couple of weeks, we had a bigger population than Samoa. We had some really big name celebrities sign up as citizens. Al Gore was our first. And as an active environmentalist, he helped us put together the Trash Isles Manifesto, which was posted on the site. We had none other than David Attenborough. He did an interview on the topic, which was also posted on the site. In total, we had over 40 big-name celebrities. And because we took a light-hearted approach to the campaign, we were able to approach people outside of the environmental and political sphere, We had the likes of Pharrell Williams, Gerard Butler, Chris Hemsworth. As we said, some took on official roles. Dal mentioned we were a monarchy. Well, Dame Judi Dench was our queen. John Cena was our Secretary of Defense. That was self-elected, but you're not going to argue with John Cena, are you? Let's be honest. And this light-hearted tone really was something that we focused on, because this audience has charity fatigue. If you preach to them, they switch off. So in order to engage them, we had to entertain them.
So the next part of the campaign was creating the visual identity for the trash owls, which is fun but extremely challenging. And we began with a flag. We looked at hundreds of flags, we looked at their bold colours, their simple yet clinical line work, and we designed this flag made from recycled plastic to raise awareness of the problem. Our next challenge was the money. Creating a currency that looks realistic is difficult, but creating one made from recycled plastic is even trickier. Printers aren't set up to deal with these sorts of production processes, and if it were easy to counterfeit money, then we'd have a really big problem on our hands. So we worked extremely closely with our production partners to get the desired effects. We studied lithography references to get the effects on the main imagery, and we went through dozens of files to get the shimmers working well across the banknotes. Next came the passports. Again, we looked at lots of passports, we deconstruct them and try to work out what makes them tick. And we noticed that they all had one thing in common, which was imagery of animals standing tall and proud or birds flying gracefully. So we subverted this familiar iconography to show the animals suffering at the hand of plastic pollution. And we didn't stop there. We reimagined everything from the mottos emblazoned on the covers all the way down to the stamps that you find in the insert pages. And last but not least, the stamps for official correspondence. Out of the blue one day, we received an email from a guy called Nico, who worked at the Portland Stamp Company in the US. He'd seen the campaign online, really liked it, and it happened to be an issue that was really close to his heart. So he offered to make us the stamps, which we couldn't refuse. But we received loads of emails from people that wanted to help. It didn't just stop here. We had people offering to make furniture out of recycled driftwood and plastic for the trash owls. We had someone who was a poet that emailed us saying, could she be the official poet for the trash owls? And the trash owls was eventually put into the Design Museum's permanent collection in London and is currently on tour in New York.
So to recap as to where we were, we'd had recognition from the United Nations. We'd had hundreds of thousands of citizens signed up, some with some really big-name celebrities, and we created everything an official country needed. And that meant that we soon started making waves in the press. So we found ourselves being covered across the globe, from Fox News to CNN to Euronews to BBC. This drove traffic to the site and gave all of the content on the Trash Owls Hub over 50 million video views, which meant that we reached 500 million people. And when we ran the analytics on this, that meant that our one country was talked about in another 100 other countries. And when we look at raising awareness and where we were, we ran the numbers, and we were seeing that in the first 3 months after the launch of our campaign, there was more conversation around the term plastic pollution than the entire year previous. And when we started, and we look back at the Oxford Dictionary study in 2017, where they were finding that people were associating plastic with words like box, toy, cup, so all of the things it was being used for. Well, they ran the same study again in 2018, and they found a huge difference. They found that people were associating plastic with words like suffocation, pollution, rubbish, and they noticed that not only had the landscape changed, but it'd been seen twice as much in writing and was in fact their word of the year. And because our campaign's all about raising awareness, we want to raise awareness with you in the room today. Since Dal and I have started talking, 150 kilograms of plastic has been dumped into the ocean. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.